Hello, everybody. We're here to talk about Long Island's dangerous roadways, some of the most dangerous ones in the state, and looking at different design solutions that can help make them a little bit safer. We have a panel from. Did I lose the mic? Okay, that's better. We have representatives from the county, some engineering. I'm cutting in and out here. Engineering firms and advocacy perspectives. We have, starting from your left, we have Sean Sally from Nassau County Department of Public Works, the Planning Division Supervisor. Has over 14 years experience in managing complex infrastructure projects, environmental impact analysis, land development, zoning, land use controls, economic development, and GIS systems. Mr. Sally is accredited by the American Institute of Certified Planners and has served as the director of the APA New York Metro Chapter's Long Island section since 2015. Next we have Travu, who's the technical director of modeling and visualization at Green Peterson Inc. in New York, and an adjunct professor at NYU's Tandon School of Engineering. Travu's an active member of various professional organizations and is current president of the ITE Met section, a member of WTS, ASCE, and YPT. And I'm embarrassed to admit I don't know what half of those are. I do know a few. And is lead organizer of the popular unconference event Transportation Camp. Next we have Michael Vitti, who is the president of the Concerned Long Island Mountain Bicyclists, also known as CLIMB, and Long Island Greenways and Trails, a nonprofit advocacy organization that help advocate for recreational trails away from traffic and the concrete jungle. CLIMB has built and currently maintains over 175 miles of mountain bike trails across Long Island. And we have Greg Del Rio from NV5s from Long Beach and Director of Transportation Planning and Engineering for the NV5's Northeast region. His focus is on projects involving implementation of mobility solutions for all users and abilities, specializing in smart growth initiatives such as non-motorized transportation, transit-oriented development, safe routes to schools, and downtown revitalization. We also have two representatives in the room from the Governor's Office, to communicate with DOT and bring any questions we have for DOT back to them. We have Brian Sapp from Suffolk County and Imran Ansari from Nassau County, and they will be available to take some questions a little bit later on. All right. Greg, you want to start?
Thanks, Alyssa. So real quick, I've got, when I was first asked to be on the panel, I was going to concentrate on one project and talk about the process and safety and engineering. And then once I saw who was on the panel, the light bulb went off and I said, let me not bore the group, let me hit you with a bunch of stuff that's been built or in process, but also stitches us all together. A lot of these projects we actually overlap on, and you'll see that as I go through the presentation. So I'm going to talk about several projects, and what you're looking at right here is one of them in East Setauket. So I'm going to go this way. Just a scattering of where these projects are, and also, this just talks to the point of what we're all trying to do here. If you added up all the projects that we work with, we'd fill up this map with these stars and you wouldn't be able to see the island, and that's a good thing. That's what we're trying to talk about here, is these small, medium, large interventions that over time are improving our transportation network and addressing the smart growth that we're all here today to talk about. So I'll start off with Union Boulevard, East Islip. This is a project for Suffolk County DPW. And real quick, Union Boulevard, if you go back in time, that's another sort of common thread of a lot of these projects, how things have evolved since, the island first started becoming populated, right? This was a two-lane, very rural road in the early days, and then the Sudden State and Heckscher came, and they were like, oh my goodness, we got to build a bigger road, and they built a four-lane road, which was oversized, and that had its issues. Then they went to what we commonly call today as a road diet, which you see in the upper left, and you also see the picture today. So they reduced it from 4 lanes to 3 lanes. And what I like to call our project, which was the preferred alternative as we went through some of the solutions, we put a road diet on a diet. And sort of the preferred solution is what you see along the bottom. And it's being addressed through a resurfacing project. So again, sort of these small initiatives that sort of incrementally build up. So eventually it'll be built into a larger infrastructure project when they do full reconstruction. But when they do the resurfacing, they're going to do the restriping, basically. And where you see some of the bulb outs, that's going to be just the imprinted pavement instead of the full curves. But eventually the full curves will come. And this addressed a lot of sort of the issues that were being found on Union Boulevard in particular. And this is one of the very few engineering slides that I'm going to show. There were 2 recent fatalities. They're so recent that they don't even show up when we do our crash investigations. But what we're really showing is the high number of right angle crashes that were occurring, and a lot of rear ends as people were making lefts in and out of their properties, and poor sight lines and all these other engineering things that we look at when we actually develop solutions and then implement and find our preferred alternative. And as you saw on that last slide, that bottom, it gives you an opportunity for bike lanes, for parking. How exactly those shoulders get used is still to be determined. But overall, it addresses and slows down the traffic and tightens up the road. Moving on to something completely different, Setauket Greenway and Port Jefferson Wading River rails to trails. So the part all the way to the left, Setauket, is built, and I'm going to show you some slides about that. Then we have a 1 mile on-road section connecting to the Port Jeff train station. And then what we're working on right now is the building it all the way out to the Wading River rails to trails, which is really along the LIPA right-of-way, which prior to the 30s, I believe, was a rail extension. So, and that's the slide you saw before. And what I'm here to do is also, and this is partly of how we tie into, like Michael, who's an advocate and always shows up at a lot of our design meetings and outreach meetings, is how to get to the trails and how these trails actually cross these streets and what we do to the treatments to the actual streets. So what you're seeing here is something that is fairly new. They're called rectangular rapid flashing beacons, RRFBs for short, you might start hearing them. And that's, you can hit your sort of pedestrian crossing button, or in a minute I'll show you another example where they're automatically triggered. The lights go off. In this case, we have the in-pavement lights that are actually also being activated to alert the drivers that a pedestrian, bicyclist, or someone is trying to cross the street and continue on their trail usage. So a lot of engineering that goes into these things besides what you see along the trails themselves. Is making them safe to cross and providing that sort of continuity. So here it is. That was from the vehicle's perspective on the road. And now you have the bicycle and ped's perspective along the trail, and what they're seeing, okay, I have a crossing come up, slow down, be aware, signs are telling you we've got posts. We also deal with all the engineering, drainage, so you're not standing in a puddle when you're waiting to cross the street. If you see those white bollards, those are actually infrared lights that are triggering, especially for the bicyclists who don't always like to go over to where the ped button is and hit the ped button, so it's redundant. You can either hit the ped button, or when you actually go through the screen, it's going to trigger it and give you some time with the flashing beacons to safely cross the screen and provide awareness. Moving on to River Road in Yaphank. Depending on where you live on the island, you may see a road and a crossing like this every now and then. So we've had a residential example. We've had sort of that, mixed-use trail example off-road, and now this is sort of a rural road, if you're familiar with River Road in Yaphank. And you can see that it's very low volume. One car can pass through at a time, and so what we've done now is we've created a bikeway. We've reconfigured the road, reprogrammed the space to provide a bike and multi-use path along the side. And now when you get to the crossing, it's actually controlled by a signal, so it's a little bit safer for vehicles and peds. There's actually a pedestrian and bicycle phase, so that when you hit the ped button, it's giving you, I forget how much, I think 40 seconds to go both ways and cross through here safely without any vehicles at all. And these are just some other shots of how to get to the trail. And again, Mike's big thing is, don't make me drive to these trails. Give me ways to safely get to the trails from my house to the trail, and he'll talk about that a little later. And if you build it, they will come. And so all kinds of users are using it today, so that's always good to see. Main Street, Port Washington in Nassau County. It's not Sean's road. Sean's going to talk about Nassau DPW roads, but we all coordinate with these projects within his district. So this is more of a downtown context. These are a lot more what you're probably used to seeing at these presentations. You know, it's pretty pedestrian friendly and walkable today, but there's always improvements that you can make. This is going into final design right now. The subtle things, again, we have the RRFBs. This is right in front of the train station, if you're familiar with Port Washington, but the treatment's being held right through Main Street and downtown. This particular intersection doesn't have a signalized crossing because the volumes in the side street don't warrant it, but there is a lot of pedestrian activity. If you notice real quick, we extended the curbs, which gives you the opportunity to rain gardens and green infrastructure, as well as seating, benches, and all the other streetscape amenities to make more of a place in the downtowns. Great Neck Plaza, you may have seen this one. This is a little bit older of a project, but it's a good one to show what's happening right around these train stations to address TOD access, make it friendly, make it so that you don't want to drive 3 blocks to drop off and pick up and do the kissing rides, but actually get there a little easier. You know, before the project, there was a very narrow sidewalk right in front of the station itself. You can focus on the 3 lanes. You can focus on the sort of car-oriented access coming into the driveway and out of it. And then it's very subtle, but a lot of big changes. There's a much bigger sidewalk now. We've reprogrammed the space, and you know that's another thing we're always doing is reprogramming space. Extended the sidewalks, given the pedestrian, allowed more room for drop-off pickups to occur, tightened everything up to slow down the traffic and give pedestrians their right-of-way. This is just looking at it from a different perspective, and you can see them lined up and waiting for their rides. Final one is Nichols Road. So if you're familiar with Nichols Road, this is now I've talked about a lot of small and medium-sized projects. This is a very large project and you know very transformative for Suffolk County, to use a catchword there. And you can see all the little things. So you know Nichols Road it's all about cars today. It's not friendly to anybody else. There is no other infrastructure along Nichols Road, but that's going to change. While it's sold as a bus rapid transit, you don't have BRT unless you can get there and to and from the stations. So this is one example of one area where everything's at grade. The green is where the dedicated bus lanes will be. The sort of slash marks just mean there's a little bit of a weaving area as you go through with sharing some space with other cars. But you see the shared use path along the south side and all the improved connections to get you to and from the bus stops, as well as just providing better crossings and for bicyclists and pedestrians, as well as connecting to other bicycle infrastructure and connections that go into the community, which is the blue lines. And then just another example, how we're treating it as we cross some of the larger highways like the LIE. And in this case, we actually have to, you know, we have those very busy ramps where we now are building infrastructure, which is pedestrian bridges, to get you through these areas. You'll also notice where the busway is now. It's on the medians. So depending on what segment of the road, it will flip from the median to the more traditional shoulders. And then I'll just end with a very quick sort of simulation. We're working on this project, I forgot to mention, with GPI. GPI is the prime on this project. This is their simulation they created to help understand and also communicate how everything will work. You can see the bus stops in the median, in this case right in front of Suffolk Community College, and the multi-use path along the right side of the screen up here, the improved connections, and trying to make everything work a little more friendly. And then just a quick shots and a nod to Mike and the bikeway, some pictures of the Greenbelt Trail, and you know, it's not all about just the placemaking and smart growth and TOD. You know, a lot of these transportation projects are also about just health and giving you other options to get away from the hustle and bustle of Long Island. So with that, I will, I should have left that up there. Give it to Sean.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Sean Sally. I work with for the Nassau County Department of Public Works. And what I really want to discuss with you this morning is some of the planning rationale and the process that we go through in bringing about some of the larger scale complete streets projects. The department works on strategic improvements at intersections, etc. But we also work on the larger corridors and try to improve those corridors with complete streets type projects. There are a lot of challenges and opportunities that we are cognizant of and have to work through to bring about implementing these types of projects. Again, I'm going to take a little bit of a different angle, but I think it's important to share with the design professionals in the room, with the community advocates, on how sort of the process is sort of demystified a little bit from the perspective of someone working for government. Sometimes we'll get the question, what are complete streets? Why do we need that? There are a couple of reasons and rationales for improving roadways, typically in suburban context. One of those reasons or justifications is that in many places throughout Nassau County and Suffolk County, for that matter, our main streets suffer sort of an identity crisis. They may be county or state roads designed to handle and move large volumes of traffic. But as you can see, this happens to be the village of Westbury. This is a county road, Post Avenue. But you can take the South Shore along Sunrise Highway, Merrick Road. There are existing and long-standing downtowns, compact downtowns, that are sort of bisected by these roadways that have heavy volume, speeds that are in excess of what a pedestrian would feel comfortable sort of interacting with. So one purpose for implementing complete streets is, of course, improving on downtown revitalization efforts or complementing local efforts and economic development initiatives. Okay, another is enhancing safety. This is a photo from the hamlet of East Atlantic Beach on the Barrier Island, just west of the city of Long Beach. So, historically this was a summertime bungalow community, and over the years those bungalows have been converted to full-time. Some of them have, are rented to multiple, families. So there is a lot of density in a small area. It's a very desirable place to live with the beach and the bay and all the recreation. But you have, in this case, this is Beach Street, also a county road, 2 lanes in either direction, very narrow sidewalks, and a lot of activity, particularly in the summer and in the shoulder seasons of the spring and fall. Okay, and then accommodating sort of the transportation preferences that we're just seeing by nature. So the 2 photos I have here, on the top left, that's Grand Avenue, just south of the Southern State Parkway. One of our design consultants that are working on a Grand Avenue project that I'll go through in a little bit happened to be just hanging out on a corner observing traffic, and here comes the longboard skateboarder with the satchel, presumably going to the train station or going to work or the library, but right in the left lane in traffic. It's not something we condone, but it's an observation. So this is occurring given the current design of the roadway. And on the bottom right, I was driving actually to a public meeting on a complete streets project where we were about to get slaughtered. And this is a Sunday morning, by the way, so just so you don't see any traffic. But I'm in the right lane traveling east, and I'm going below the speed limit because I'm trying to observe just the environs and make sure that that I'm well prepared for a public meeting. And I see this. I come up on this woman riding her bike in the middle of the right lane, and with the sort of the saddlebag around the back of the bike. I don't know if she was going to the library or something, but she felt comfortable in the right lane, and that was surprising to me. But this is again happening without any design intervention to accommodate. Okay, so with those conditions, we sort of take set forth an evaluation based on these observations and experiences, and try to take on a project that is going to improve the situation, again, to accommodate all users of the roadway. And I thought this picture was particularly appropriate because we're going through this right now in balancing the desires, the interests, and the preferences of the community. And that's very important because there are a lot of different perspectives that need to be considered and heard to bring about a project that works for everyone. We don't work in silos. We try to break down those silos and work together. And I think that's key to a successful project and to implementing a project within budget in a expedited amount of time, and something that works for everyone. We don't want a bad project sort of setting a precedent. So with that, our typical issue that we grapple with is, well, I'm all for safety, but it may take me a little bit longer to get to work or school or whatever, and I'm not comfortable with that. And so, when the design professionals are running the models, and it's clear that yes, there may be a delay or additional time, travel time during the peak hours, the AM, PM during the weekday. But you really have to look at the flip side of that and say, but the safety improvements, the accessibility, those benefits accrue all of the time. So if it's a matter of taking a little bit longer to get to work or school in the morning and the afternoon, that's an acceptable trade-off for the benefits that sort of are 24/7 for the most part. And this, the diagram on the right is just, there's actually a project that we're working on, I'll go through quickly, in Atlantic Beach, where the town councilman came to one of our meetings and actually laid this out, and it was interesting because he sort of just came into it. We were standing around a table looking at the preliminary design, and he's listening to the community, the fire department representatives, and sort of picks this up right away, and it's exactly what we see in many projects where you're balancing how to accommodate and ensure that these projects improve safety, maintain emergency access, fire emergency. In the case in East Atlantic Beach, on-street parking, that's sort of sacrosanct in many communities. And then making sure that we're accommodating the other modes of transportation, pedestrians, of course, and bicyclists, etc. And there really is no hierarchy or priority, but we have to, through design and through planning, make sure that all of these concerns and challenges are addressed to the best of our ability. Okay, so I'd just like to conclude with a couple of examples of the corridor complete streets projects that the county is working on. And the first is Grand Avenue in Baldwin. This is a photo of Grand Avenue between Merrick Road and Sunrise Highway, so just south of the train station. You have a mix of uses along the corridor. You have 2 lanes in either direction. And there's an initiative by the county and the town to revitalize this community, or this downtown. And so we're considering a road diet. We're actually in the design phase now, reducing the 2 lanes in either direction to 1 lane in either direction with a 2-way center turn lane. Curb bump outs and all the accoutrement of a complete streets project. But some of the challenges here, mainly is that the volumes as you approach Sunrise Highway are sort of at that threshold when you look at the projections. Sort of the threshold of what can be handled by a single lane in either direction. But the ultimate goal of the community is to create, or not to create, but to enhance an existing downtown. that is in the process of being revitalized. So if it slows folks down, that's good for business, that's good for safety. And so, there's sort of that acceptance that traffic will move slower. So as I mentioned, we're in the design phase now, and we expect that to move along and hopefully be completed by next summer. Very interesting project, and as many of you heard this morning from the supervisor-elect, the hamlet areas in the town of Hempstead are a focus of revitalization efforts. This is Park Street and Beach Street in the village of Atlantic Beach and the hamlet of East Atlantic Beach, again on the west end of the Long Beach Barrier Island. So what we're considering is a road diet as well along the east end of the corridor. And as I mentioned earlier, safety of course is a concern because currently speeds are well in excess of the posted speed limit. In East Atlantic Beach, where you have homes, single-family homes, two-family homes that are right up against that corridor. It's very busy in the summer and the shoulder seasons. So trying to slow that traffic down and then create, on the south side of this road, a mixed-use trail or cycle track with sidewalk to accommodate the bike and peds. There's an opportunity here to create a continuous bikeway from the Atlantic Beach Bridge, and actually just to the north of the Atlantic Beach Bridge in Inwood, the Five Towns, all the way through into the city of Long Beach, along the city, the boardwalk, to Lido Beach. So it's a tremendous opportunity, but of course the devil's in the details, and that's something that we're working through now to make sure that all the considerations are addressed through community participation, of course. Okay, and this is a project that we're about to embark on in downtown Hicksville. So we just received proposals for a traffic study, a complete streets traffic study in the downtown core, where we'll be coordinating heavily with the town of Oyster Bay, the state of New York, DOT, because there are county roads, state roads, and town roads in this vicinity. We're looking to actually complement the downtown revitalization effort that the town is undertaking with the support of New York State. So through the development and land use proposals and recommendations that will come out of that work, we'll be able to kind of circle around and figure out how to improve the road network to support that potential development over time. So this is a case where the county is supporting a local government and complementing their efforts. So we expect this project to kick off in the new year. We're excited about it. It's a tremendous opportunity. Everybody, I think, agrees that Hicksville is a tremendous opportunity. So with that, I'll just say thank you very much for the opportunity and turn it over.
Good morning. Hi, so I had the pleasure of working on Grand Avenue, Baldwin, so thank you for that segue. And what I do is simulation modeling, as we had indicated that we do a lot of design work. However, there's a disconnect between what we're trying to bring to the public, while we are not able to bring the technical details to their level of understanding. So I have, oops, sorry about that. So I was reading this beautiful message from Eric Alexander, the director of Vision Long Island. It is in your packet. And at the very end he said, none of this happens without the support of the public. None of this is worth doing without serving the public. So the conversation begins and ends with the public. And while we are very involved in the designing and fixing of our dangerous roadways, the tools that we want to bring today is a tool that bridge the engineers and the policymakers with the public. So when we design a beautiful street like this, we want to engage the public And how do we do that without bringing charts and charts, explaining the results? So we've came up with, the technology has caught up to us. So we want to invite an audience member to try out our immersive virtual reality, Grand Avenue. Because the moment that you put this on, we will also see your perspective, and then we will have a dialogue about this design. What do you want to see changed? We're going to put it on here, because we are able to annotate any comments that you have. And then we can bring it back and change the design. And we are sharing this online. It is all on the cloud, all the platforms. So with that, I would like to invite an audience. Please raise your hand.
Any volunteers?
Please. Oh, thank you. Come on up.
I'm Jared.
So, this is a regular phone. Any phone will work. Entered. Okay. So you're gonna put this on. Okay, it's loading. And on the very top is a scroll. Basically, it's like when you go to an optometrist and it's not clear enough, you can just move it on top of it. Okay. Well, Jared, we get to see your view, so be careful what you're looking at. Okay. So, how do you feel?
I feel immersed. I can see everything. I have like I'm up high.
It is a 360 degrees, so you can look up. I don't know if we have any birds in this view, but oh, you are on the iPad. Yes. So what we are able to do with this kind of experience is we can bring you the view of every single user on the road. Right? We're talking about complete street. So complete street involves not only just the vehicle, but the bicyclist, that skateboarder that you saw. We can immerse them in every single part of this design. Okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. You're doing great. You can even tap on the right side of your VR to go to different view. Ooh, there you are. Oh, so we are able to design Grand Avenue that you're very familiar with a bus lane, with a bicycle lane, and still have a capacity that you're saying that it maxes out in one lane. That's why we still have one lane, and we'll have a turn lane. However, so Jared, part of this experience is how do you like it change? What do you think? So I am going to be able to annotate any of your experience. First, I want to highlight this view. Oh, that's fine. Don't worry. We are able to annotate the information to the user by giving them very informative statistics. So we can say that with a protected bike lane, 28% fewer injuries are recorded compared to streets without a bike infrastructure. So with that, we are able to guide users like Jared to look at the statistic that matters, but also we can take in Jared's experience. So what do you think could be done better on this design?
Well, maybe there could be benches.
Benches.
More benches.
Yeah. So the public space, right? Like pedestrian public plazas.
Yes. Well, just only give me a hint. I didn't hear it. Maybe some more shops. These like I don't know if this is a building here, some kind of residential. I don't know. Office building. There's a gas station here, so there's like I don't know, like a 7-Eleven, but maybe more shops.
Okay, so you're focusing on the details, but I really like your recommendations on public streets. So okay, thank you so much. Okay, so Jared said that we want to add more benches. So what I just did was I took Chair's recommendation, I place a little annotation here, and it's immediately available to our design team back in the office. If they're designing it, if they're working on it right now, they're going to see this annotation that shows up, and they won't put it in the public benches. And the idea, I guess, is that we are not really designing streets that move people quickly from one point to another, but we are designing complete streets that will keep people in one place, right? Our measure of effectiveness is how fast we move through our town. The measure of effectiveness is how long do you linger. So I love your design idea. And we can share this presentation because it's on the cloud. You can share it through multiple platforms. You can do it on your phone. You can embed it on any of your website. So on the website, you will see this, and you can have the 360 experience on anybody's website. And you can send the link directly to anybody's phone or directly onto a browser. So with that, we would like to invite everybody to just grab one of these. We have hundreds of them to give out, and you can continue the experience at your own leisure. Thank you very much.
Hi folks, I'm Michael Vitti, the president of Climb. It's a mountain bike group, but what's a mountain bike group doing involved in complete streets? We created another organization called Long Island Greenways and Healthy Trails, LIGHT for short, because we wanted to create ways for people to safely access parks and leave their car at home. We work with the town, the county. We created a bicycle advisory committee with town of Brookhaven years ago, and I remember the River Road bike path was something that we advocated for, and that was about 7 years ago, so it was great to see that actually come to fruition. Because we created the dream and the engineers created the reality. They made it reality. The thing we do most of all is just show up to meetings because the world is run by people who show up. And we like to provide input on what we want to see in the project. Like Nassau County has the Long Island Motor Parkway path that's going to be going from east to west from the Queens County line to Suffolk County line, and that'll create links to Eisenhower Park and Bethpage Park and the Bethpage Old Village Restoration. That's something that is being built in piecemeal as the grants are available, and a lot of time the advocates are important because we'll try to push the legislators to apply for grants to create these projects. And the other thing that we tried to get is we tried to push for a Long Island bicycle coordinator position so that we can coordinate all these projects, because a lot of the projects are piecemeal, but that's okay because you have this little piece that's built, and then we figure out ways to expand on that and make it better. So one of those projects that we're currently working on is you're familiar with Governor Cuomo's Empire State Trail, which is a great project. It's a big dream to connect New York City with Canada and Buffalo with Albany. So immediately, I went to meetings on that in Albany, and we said, well, what about Long Island? We can create a spur to Long Island. And, now people are working on that, and we're going to use maybe the Long Island Motor Parkway path and the Port Jeff to Wading River path and a whole bunch of other paths, and create a connection so that you can ride your bike theoretically from New York City all the way to the wineries in the North Fork. But if you don't want to ride your bike that long, you could take the train to any location and start your voyage from any train location. The other project we were working on was in Union Avenue. There's a little-known bike path called the Greenleaf Trail, which runs north and south by Nichols Road. So, you know, when you involve the advocates, you find out about these little projects that you can connect and make great assets for the community.
No problem. Well, you're getting something.
We've been doing this for years, and it takes patience because a lot of times these projects don't move for years. But you know, if you don't show up to the meetings, it's not going to happen. Another project we were working on is the Ocean Parkway Bike Path Extension. We did lots of letter writing and went to a lot of meetings, and you know, finally. The state is going to expand the Ocean Parkway bike path from Tobay all the way to Capture. And you know, now we're asking DOT to try to take a lane from Robert Moses Causeway to northbound lane and create a two-way bike path to connect Suffolk County residents with the Ocean Parkway bike path. The other thing we asked the state to do is create a bike path extending the boardwalk from Jones Beach to the West End area, which is a very little used area of Jones Beach. There's a nature center in West End too of Jones Beach that's very little used. So now the state took our advice, and they're creating a 4-mile extension of the Jones Beach Boardwalk bike path to go to the West End. So, you know, we're creating little family destinations, and complete streets really, in my mind, is fixing the mistake from creating streets that were just for cars. Now we want to accommodate bicycles and pedestrians. And how do you get more people out of their cars? And the way to do that is to make them feel safe. So you're not gonna feel safe if you're mixed in with traffic and we're riding in the middle of the right lane, like Sean showed you. So, you know, we want to get kids involved in healthy activities. And bicycling is something that they can do for a lifetime and keep them off the couch. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Come around this side. Okay. We only have a few minutes left for Q&A. I'm going to start. I have a thing I want to mention, but before I do that, I'm going to start with just if there's any questions in the room, we have our state representatives have to leave a couple minutes before this ends. So if anyone has any questions, a lot of these projects that have been mentioned are on state roads or state trails. But if there's any other projects questions related to DOT or progress on projects around Long Island that anyone has before they have to leave. I don't know if I'm not seeing a lot, but yes? Sure.
Always about DOT. On Middle Country Road in Quorum, there's a almost finished complete street project. When will it ever be finished? That's the question I have for you, Brian. You could just go and get back on it to me if you want to. But
Yeah, so...
James to the floor, so you kind of have it.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'm joined by Imran Ansari, who's our NASA rep as well. Thank you, Gail. Unfortunately, DOT can't be here today, but Gail, I'll follow up with you and let you know
you know, it's
the
so
exact
close,
time.
but to have these ugly things still there and all those terrible barrels, after a while, the barrels, you get used to the barrels.
Yeah,
You know, they
absolutely.
start to become part of the landscape, you know, and it's not right.
Absolutely. We'll definitely follow up with you. Anyone else?
Question/comment.
and kind of piggybacking on what Michael Vitti had just said about having a bicycle coordinator. And I'd like to express that to the state DOT that when it comes to whether it's complete streets or traffic safety, we really, Long Island is the size of the state. We really need a bicycle pedestrian coordinator to work with the state level. And I know you've got up there Robert Lamage and what the other guy's name from GTSC, but we need someone on the ground who can help articulate the needs of vulnerable road users, who can make sure that these complete street projects are indeed complete, because there are complete street projects that I'm coming from the city of Long Beach. I work throughout Long Island as the executive director of Long Island Streets, and I see some projects that aren't quite complete, and we need to make sure that they are, and that we're aiming not just toward the old definition of complete streets, but more towards a Vision Zero or Road to Zero vision, which is coming down from the federal government down, hopefully soon to the state. So I would like to articulate that we desperately need an increased capacity, whether it's our Nassau County Traffic Safety Board. I'm not entirely sure of Suffolk County's Traffic Safety Board, exactly. So we need to beef that up, because as you know, safe streets are just a complete goal. They need to be for everyone, not just vehicle to dominate. And Nassau County, as you also know, has outside of New York City the highest rate of pedestrian deaths. I believe it's 6 locations, the town of Hempstead being the #1 spot outside of New York City. And that's really not, we shouldn't be proud of that. So if you could just bring that message back that, we've got plenty of people in this summit who there's a lot of people here who are buying into this. We need a coordinator.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Definitely understood. Something we will definitely look into and speak with Michael further. I'd love your presentation, and I'm an avid biker and hiker as well, so I would love to connect with you and talk further about this. Imran will connect with you since you live in Long Beach, and we can sit down and have another meeting as soon as possible.
Hey, can I just add to that? Sure. Because the title here says dangerous roadways. What criteria do you use for dangerous roadways? Are we talking about pedestrian deaths, vehicular pedestrian strikes? Are we talking about locations where you have a tremendous amount of vehicular accidents? Is it a combination of all? Do you reach out to civic associations? Because who better to know dangerous intersections of their community than the community members? And also studies. And when these traffic studies are done within communities, is there a reach out to the civic groups? Because again, I think there's been a lot of development within communities for population growth, but I don't think the same is necessarily true about the traffic patterns and light intersections and so forth. And I can tell you that because my father-in-law was killed at a traffic intersection in Oceanside that I came to find out later is a dangerous intersection, and there have been numerous intersections like that in Oceanside alone, where you have tremendous amount of vehicular pedestrian strikes. So that was a lot of words, but throwing that there.
So I think the first question was more, how do we determine which is a dangerous road? Sean, did you have anything to add on that?
Well, I think, yes, in terms of determining what roads are appropriate or what intersections, there's an analysis of accidents, of course. I can say that the Baldwin project, the Grand Avenue project, we look at the accident data, but there are other reasons for improving the roads, and the economic development revitalization piece weighs very heavily. But when you're looking at a particular intersection or segment of road, yes, there's an analysis of accidents, of speeds, and then of the potential. Hopefully you're not always waiting for something bad to happen, and you're sort of being proactive in preventing the potential. So it's sort of all of those combined.
As Vision Long Island is part of the Complete Streets Coalition, we tend to highlight hotspots, and part of them are roads that have been shown to be dangerous with pedestrian fatalities, and others are areas where economic development is happening, and the type of development that is going to bring more pedestrians to again be more proactive. You know, looking at a lot of multi-lane highways that are adjacent to downtowns, whether it's Route 110 in Huntington Station, 109 as it goes through Farmingdale, there's the 106 and 107 in Hicksville, looking at places where a lot of development is happening or is planned to happen, and trying to be proactive and get those roads fixed before they become worse problems than they are. Anything else? Before? Yes?
I guess this is a question for the engineering folks, but I'm Alex Lackey from AAA. What do you find is the most, either I guess cost-effective or effective low-cost? I don't know if those are exactly the same, but what's the most effective low-cost intervention that you think, given a certain level of funding, might be scalable, county or island-wide?
I have something that you guys want.
There's something I'm an advocate lately of, and very low cost and very simple to implement. And I've just recently worked with a couple of projects with Nassau County, and they've actually implemented it through the studies, and that's signal timing. Simply addressing deficient signal timing, whether it's not an intersection that doesn't have enough time for the pedestrians to appropriately cross the street. One thing we get a lot of, and we have a lot of these roads on Long Island, and it's always a battle, are roads that have medians, because in traffic engineering world, sometimes depending on those widths, they treat them as they should be a two-stage crossing, and we try to advocate that that's not the way people cross the street. They don't want to wait a second, 90 seconds or 45 seconds from the middle to get across. They're stuck in the middle. It's not a safe place to be. You'll see now on Sunrise Highway at the state level, they've actually changed that, almost everywhere you can change it. But at the smaller municipal level, it's become somewhat more of a challenge. The other thing is the progressions, and that's what I really love, and it's very simple to do. So not only are you giving time to crossing the street, but you can manage the speeds of traffic, and we've done it in Long Beach, and it's been proven before and after speed studies with the progression of lights. And certain sections, they haven't been able to implement it yet because of Sandy. The connections to the lights are not there. But in one section through the main downtown, we now have timed them at 28 miles an hour, so that if you speed up, all you're doing is speeding up to a red light. And everybody's kind of gotten the message. You've seen people adjust and slow down. So those are just really simple. Striping and signing are other really quick interventions.
I was going to say, I just wanted to try an even lower cost thing for, before you embark on a multi-million-dollar road redesign of the concept of what they call tactical urbanism, where testing out ideas with very low-cost things to test them out, see if they work before you invest. I mean, the stuff you can do with hay bales and some paint and rollers, just to try out curb extensions or a median or a mini roundabout or whatever the case may be, to experiment with very low cost, nothing permanent, see how it works before you invest on the permanent changes.
That's kind of where I left off with the striping and everything. And stamped concrete, like I said, on the Union Boulevard project that I presented earlier, is just an early thing that you can do when you're doing the surfacing until the more expensive full infrastructure improvements occur later. I work a lot in the city. A lot of the stuff you see in the city we were part of. A lot of municipalities, again, the local engineers are slowly starting to get a little more comfortable now with NACTO and everything, supporting these tactical interventions. It's been a slow, changing of that, turning the ship, but it is turning.
1 second, Paul, you had your hand up before?
Yes, hi. This is for Mr. Sally. You indicated the traffic study for downtown Hicksville is going to start in January. What is the time frame for completing that study?
Thank you. So the question is the Hicksville downtown traffic study. What is the timeline for completion? Yes, we'll look to do it within 6 months. Typically, the traffic studies, that type of, or that scale of a study area It would take about a year. So I'm optimistic that we can do it in less than that. But if it is between 6 months and 1 year, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised. We want to make sure that we have all of the information in our hands. We're going to need to speak to a lot of people, a lot of agencies, but we are aware and cognizant that we want to be as close in line with the revitalization efforts that are being sort of driven by the town, so that as they need the traffic data and they need the complete streets recommendations from the county in order for their town board to move forward, that data, that information is available. So that's something that we're aware of and we're working towards, that the processes are run concurrent and that we're not holding up the town.
All right, so we just have to head out in a second. We just wanted to make sure everyone, has our email addresses. If you can think of something later on, if there is a DOT concern in your regions, you can think of similar to what Gail brought up from the Middle Island Quorum area, if you have something like that. So for Nassau County, my email address is Imran, IMRAN, .ansari, ANSARI, at exec.ny.gov. So if you have anything Nassau County related on state DOT fronts, we'll connect you with the our counterparts at DOT. So just send that over to us. And then for Brian, it's brian.sapp, BRIAN, .sapp, SAPP, at exec.ny.gov. So if you have anything in either county DOT concern, please send that along. Unfortunately, we have to run out right now, but just want to make sure you guys have an avenue to get that to the state if you have any concern.
We're technically out of time, but we'll take one last question before we switch over to the other panel. Yes?
Thank you so much, first of all, for gathering all the professionals together. I know they're trying to do their best in the redesign and repurposing of today's existing infrastructure, built out density, the development, the fights back and forth to repurpose property. And I've been to many complete street summits before. Two things I always see missing from this, and one is the education to garner greater driver compliance, and the other is enforcement of our existing traffic regulations. Because regardless of what you alter physically on the landscape, you have to alter the mind of the driver not to be going from point A to point B as quickly as possible with complete disregard for everything else around them, including bicyclists, pedestrians and such, and the regular rules of the road, field and signals and signage. I've never heard that, and I think it's so lacking on Long Island in enforcement impact effort by our police departments. We have 2 counties involved, and villages and towns. It's a missing element, and you have any ideas about how to increase that education and increase that enforcement, because what the drivers do is between their ears, regardless of what you have on the road.
Well, with the Bicycle Advisory Committee for the town of Brookhaven, we created a public service announcement, and it's a video that teaches automobile users what to expect with bicycles and how to react near when bicycles are present, and also to teach the bicyclists to be predictable and don't stop for stop signs, stop for red lights, and it's an educational project that is ongoing, and so that was just for town of Brookhaven. And there's many towns, there's Nassau County, there's Suffolk County, so there's a lot of work to be done. But if we had a bicycle advisory committee in each town, each county, and then a Long Island bicycle coordinator, then we'd be on our way to safer streets.
So I want to speak on the education part, since I teach at New York University. At NYU, we have a center called C2 Smart. And at C2 Smart, we are building obviously educational program. And with that, it is also an immersive experience where you can educate people by just putting them into a new place that they're not familiar with yet. But you simulate the experience. It's completely interactive, and it allows them to fill out the space before it actually implemented.
Yeah, and I think, just to wrap up, we're talking about road safety. There's always the talk of the 3 E's. There's engineering, there's education, and enforcement. And obviously we've focused a lot more on the engineering component of it, because enforcement does need to be done, but you can't have a cop at every corner all the time. So you need to have roads that at least most people follow the rules of the road, when there isn't a cop there. I mean, if the cop's going to be there, everyone's going to stop at that stop sign, but you need people to stop when there's not a cop there. But education is definitely lacking. I think there's a lot of people taking road tests who don't know how to, never were taught how to interact with, when to yield to pedestrians or cyclists or what. So that definitely needs to be focused on. But yeah, it's definitely a combination of all 3. You can't get by with just one and not the others. All right, and with that, we are out of time. So thank you everyone for coming.